A lot of the voice and text-based interfaces available to an end user today are monolingual, and a lot of them only support English. In multilingual populations, though, a significant portion of naturalistic interactions and conversations often mix more than one language. When talking to a virtual agent, users need to take a few trials to learn to modulate their own speech and language to match an assistant's capabilities. But what if we didn't always have to do that? What if we could talk to our agents freely mixing languages, or technically what is called code mixing, like we often do with other people? Generating such code mixed language computationally isn't as hard as it used to be, but it's still a challenging problem. That's because there isn't one recipe for good code mixing. We've noticed a wide range of differing attitudes towards code mixing, both across societies and individuals. And that got us interested in characterizing a good policy for deciding when to code mix and how much to code mix. So we designed two policies and tested them to see if they improve user experience. The first policy is simple: always code mix. This makes the presence of mixing very salient and gives us a conservative estimate of whether users do want their bots to code mix. The second policy, called the nudge policy, tries to be more adaptive and initiates code mixing, but then converges to the degree of code mixing that the user reciprocates, including the case of no mixing. We divide the participants into two groups for each of the code mixing policies. In each group, the participant first chats with an English bot and then with a code mixing bot. They provide ratings on humanness and conversational ability of both the systems. We also ask some open-ended questions at the end of the study to understand their evaluations of the interactions. To achieve seamless, real-time, and adequate mixing, we designed human-in-the-loop prototypes where individual messages between the user and the English bot were translated by human wizards based on instructions from the mixing policies and the nudge algorithm. The same process was followed for the baseline as well to ensure a fair comparison. After this study, a lot of the users expressed feeling more comfortable, noting that the conversations flow better and the bot being friendlier when it code mixed. But that was far from a universal sentiment. Participants also reported feeling disconcerted because of the code mixing. The two code mixing policies scored an average of 1 point more on a 7-point scale. The more proficient a participant was in Hindi, the more likely they were to rate code mixing better. Comparing the two code mixing policies, while the nudge policy accommodates to the user better, we did not observe significant differences in the user experience. One explanation for both being more or less equal is that users who rather not code mix were a minority in our sample, as our participants had a high proficiency in Hindi and were generally favorable to code mixing. So what are the key insights that our results suggest? Code mixing works in improving user experience. Always code mixing is a high reward but also high risk strategy and assumes a favorable attitude towards mixing from the users. This may or may not be a valid assumption, even in some highly multilingual user demographics. Nudging works across user preferences and is more suited to scenarios with new user demographics. It seems optimal to adopt a nudge policy for the first few turns and move to a static policy later on. The nudge policy and the rest of the framework can also be extended to other dimensions of conversational style, like formality. To learn more about our work, you can find the paper at bit.ly/codemixingbot or contact the authors.